Welcome to another episode of the Prep Coach podcast, and us three boys are back at home base, and we're all, except for Scotty, we're all rugged up. I can't believe this typical Melbourne weather. It's freezing, it's cold, it's supposed to go into summer soon, but not so in Melbourne. But how's everything going, MG? How's it feel to be home with the fam? Obviously, we're away a little bit in Bali. How good was it to come home and see the girls?
It was the best, man. It was not the ideal circumstances to come home in. We had a little bit of an accident with one of our friends and got home a few days early. But the silver lining was coming back to the girls, and oh man, it was such a nice feeling. I tell you what, what was I away? What, 8 days, maybe 9?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, for the first 5 minutes, Carly was super like coy around me. She was kind of looking at me like I wanna smile and I wanna come to you, but I just need a moment to just readjust. And then of course a couple of minutes, man, she was totally fine. But it's funny, man, at that age, 8 nights, they notice it.
There you go. She wasn't happy, mate. Never leave again.
She wasn't happy, and I because I left in a bit of a rush, I didn't even get the chance to kind of bring her back anything special. But a couple of people who were there bought gifts for me to give to her, so that was very sweet.
Oh, that's nice. That's super sweet. Super sweet.
Yeah, I know you guys got to do the potty there whilst being in Bali. What a great retreat! What a great group of people. I feel like there's going to be some connections there that'll probably last a lifetime. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty much been messaging so many of them, back and forth since then. So it's such a great community, and I think there must be just something about being away and being able to just for 7 days full-time live and breathe being a bodybuilder without having the normal responsibilities of work and family and all the normal things. It's a pretty special thing.
It was really good to see also too that a couple stayed on and they moved to like Canggu and they stayed with each other and they kind of kept the retreat going after we left. And yeah, we had an absolutely amazing crew and amazing athletes and coaches, up and coming coaches. So I'm already excited for the next one, and I know we're in the works of sorting out dates and things like that. So we'll definitely know I tell everyone really soon. Scotty, how was it you coming back to the fam? How did they all take it?
I was a welcomed addition. I think Jen was pretty excited to have me back. But I mean, I'm sure me was the same. And G, it's really hard on the girls when you go away, and especially for Jen, she's got 2 that she had to look after. My kids and Jen were over in Bali for the first week, but obviously after that they had to head back because they had kinder and things like that. But it was just awesome to be back, man. As you know, I was pretty ready to come home probably a day or 2 before, because we'd been there for so long. Just missed my own bed, my own routine, and just getting back into the thick of it. And funnily enough, I was looking on the news this morning, and there's volcano issues in Bali, and they can't get flights in or out now. So I think we probably got out just in time. Otherwise, we might have been stranded there had we stayed another week. So we probably timed it quite nicely.
Wow, that's crazy. I remember the last day we left, it was super hot, and even the Balinese people were like, this is really, really hot at the moment. So we definitely got some amazing weather, but it was pretty hot towards the end, especially that last day.
Yeah, and I think even just getting on the plane, like before we took off, I mean, I know you and I, MT, we were looking at each other like, fuck, it's hot. And we were hoping, because originally we had MG's seat booked next to us, we were hoping that we were going to have it free, and it was a full flight. And yeah, I just remember getting off the plane and finally being able to take like a nice fresh breath of fresh air and not have the aromas of perhaps people that have different hygiene standards to say you or I on a long haul flight back from, it wasn't really a long haul flight, but it was still 5.5 hours. But I actually had a bad back the next day, because I remember just being like curled up to the side, just trying to like breathe in a close proximity, while the gentleman next to me was just spilled everywhere and just wreaking havoc.
Man, it's funny you say that. No word on our flight. I reckon 50% of the flight must have had Bali belly. Even the flight attendants are like, I've never ever seen so many people up and down on their feet, walking the aisles, waiting for the toilet in any flight they've been on. So
that's terrible. Bali is definitely not fun, and we didn't physically experience it. Actually, MG, Can I tell the story about you?
Yeah, of course, man. Of course.
It wasn't Bali. It wasn't Bali, but you were definitely a bit out of sorts. So it was one of the nights. Us three boys were like, "Oh, we'll go for a massage," which is kind of our business meeting because we all sit there and get reflexology, and we kind of sit and we chat. So we go to this place to get a massage. We're all sitting next to each other, and we're all in good spirits. And then MG turns to me and he says, "Is it a bit hot in here?"
I said, "Man, are you boiling?" I even like led the question to get the answer I wanted. I led you. I'm like, "Are you boiling?" And then you actually turned to me and you just said, "No, man, it's actually pretty cool in here." Like,
yeah. And then you're like, "Oh, I'm a bit hot. Like I'm feeling like I'm sweating a bit." I was like, "Oh no, you'll be right, mate. You'll be all good. You'll be fine." And then you just got progressively worse, and then you start to.
And you know what also made it worse? You can attest to this. Were the staff laughing at me?
They were laughing at you, but I don't know why. Maybe just
like literally from the minute I sat down. I don't know whether it's my bald head or maybe it was my blue painted toenails. I don't know what it was, but I think that made it worse. I think feeling like all the eyes were on me was, and how busy was it? Like it was.
Yeah, it was busy. Packed. Yeah. So then you just got progressively worse, and obviously they massage, your lower legs, and then after that they normally sit you up, and then they turn you around, they massage your neck and your shoulders and that kind of stuff, and you're like, "Bro, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it." I think once they finish my legs, I'm out of here. And I remember her getting up, and you're like, finish, and you're about to stand up, and she's like, no, I need to wipe the oil off. As soon as she wiped it off, you got up and left. You were out of there.
Bro, I like threw, $15 Australian like just on the floor, and she's like, "Just quickly, I'm just gonna finish your shoulders." I'm like, "Fuck no, you're not gonna finish my fucking shoulders." I was considering running out there with the oil all over me. Like I was, like when you're like, "I'm not gonna make it."
So then, so you went back to the resort, and Scotty and I like, I don't know, like what? He didn't have anything. Like, what's going on? And a new message saying, "I chucked up and instantly feel better."
Yeah, pretty.
And then Scotty goes, "What did he have?" I said, "Well, we're sitting by the pool. We were relaxing. He ordered like a long black iced coffee with milk on the side. So maybe the milk was off." I was like, "But then after that, he drank a beer." And then Scotty started laughing. He's like, "So he had a milky coffee and then a beer straight after it."
Yeah,
because we're gonna do it.
Because one of my athletes who did really well, Chloe, won her pro card. We hadn't had a chance to catch up yet, and her husband, who's also a good mate of mine, he bought a bucket of 4 bintangs. I was like, "All right, we're gonna have a celebratory one drink." But I literally had it a minute after I finished my iced coffee. But at the time, I wasn't thinking about the iced coffee, right? I was just like, "Yeah, all right, we'll have a celebratory drink." And yeah, when I say it bit me in the ass, it literally bit me in the ass, man.
It did. So then the rest of the trip, we were just saying, "Oh, a bit thirsty. Could do milk and a beer right now."
Yeah, that was for the whole rest of the trip. MG, you want a beer and a coffee, or? And obviously, I did not have another beer and a coffee.
Oh Jesus! But other than that, we survived. We didn't get any Bali, luckily. So we're in good stead. I think we did really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is good to be back. But we really haven't stopped. Like as soon as we got back, it was straight into planning for 2025. We're planning all the workshops, which is a mission, to be honest, because we've got to go to every single state at least 2 to 3 times, and there's only so many weekends between Feb, March, and a little bit of April before the show starts, and there's multiple posing coaches and venues that we need to see if their availability matches with ours. So it's been a bit of a mission, but we've done all right. We're getting through it. So a lot of workshop times will be coming really, really soon. And obviously it's a shorter week for me and Stewie because we're off to China this weekend. So we've got the NBA collab with
SCNB.
Yeah, super coach over there. So looking forward to that. We leave Saturday morning, and then the show is on a Tuesday. So we arrive Saturday later in the day. Sunday's a free day where they're going to take us out and about to explore a little bit. And then Monday is athlete check-in and blood test. So everyone's getting blood tested as part of it being a natural competition. And then Tuesday's the show. So Stewie and I will be on the judges table, and we will be judging because we want to make sure that They're judging as per the NBA criterion rules. You know, I think one thing that we spoke about with us is if we're going to go anywhere and we're going to go around different states and different countries and different locations, we want to make sure that it is NBA. It's not just a franchise model where, yep, pay for the name and you can do what you want while you're over there. And they've got all different categories and divisions and judging style. We want it to be NBA wherever you go all over the world. So that's why we're making sure that we're going there first and we're making sure that everything is done as per NBA. And looking forward to it. I've never been to China. I don't know what to expect. There's going to be.
Man, I'll tell you what you can expect. To have to sit through 100+ blood tests. That's going to be a challenge in itself. I don't know if anyone or any of the listeners went online, and I can't remember if we did post the reel or the video that had some of the pictures of the queues and all the blood test vials on the table. But you know, they definitely take it seriously. One of the big things for them is, you know, it's all about integrity. And it's all about pride, and that's why, you know, having you two on the panel for him was a big must, because he doesn't want, you know, anything other than what is perfect NBA standard to be at the top. And the only people that can properly do that are you guys, not even his panel.
Yeah.
So, you know, that definitely was a good alignment for us. And ultimately, I think, you know, because somebody asked me this week, oh, you know, what's the long-term plan, or what's NBA wanting to do in China? It's really just about giving not just our athletes, right, our Australian athletes, but also international athletes, more pathways to be able to compete, let's call it globally, or at least for the time being in an Asia-Pacific realm. More shows, more pro shows, but where it's still standardized. So it's not like you're going interstate and it's different. And then the same thing, we want to keep it that even if you go overseas, everything's the same in terms of criteria. And it's kind of like the first of its kind for us, but, you know, it certainly will not be the last. This is, you know, just, you know, that inaugural show that really is going to lay the foundation for what's to come for anybody who wants to compete in Australia and then wants to take their natural competing career overseas. And, you know, truth be told, some of these Asian countries have some incredible physiques.
Yeah.
So for us, I'm talking about us as a coach and as an athlete at the moment, that excites me, and an opportunity to be able to stand on stage with a different looking physique than what I might stand on here and test myself truly against the best within Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
We had those pretty awesome foundations laid in Indonesia. You know, we made the relationship with Artie Ray, who, you know, openly on the mic said, you know, with what we present and how we run our shows, he wants to be a part of it. He wants to support us long term. So if we can incorporate Indonesia, China, and potentially, you know, elsewhere in Asia moving forward, really what we will have is, you know, a calendar year where we could have multiple Asia Pacific shows. So maybe there's a time and a place where in each season, natural competitors have the ability to compete in Australia and internationally. And that's really what the long-term plan is.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're going to be setting that plan up with them when we're over there to see like what shows are lined up for 2025, and obviously make sure that aligns with our calendar too, so that we can be there to facilitate the show, but also, you know, we have an opportunity to bring athletes too. And it lines up appropriately with our shows in our calendar too.
Yeah, so it's just, it's exciting, man. It's all around opportunity. So stay tuned the next few years as a natural competitor in Australia across all federations. It's, you know, probably one of the best times to be a competitor.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm super excited. Again, I don't know what to expect. I've never been to China, so hopefully they're not listening in on this. But I've had to like download a VPN because I've got to be able to like access, you know, my coaching apps and Facebook Messenger and all that kind of stuff. And I know that some of that stuff is blocked over there. So I think I'm going to be right. I don't think I'm going to go AWOL. I think I'm going to be able to still, you know, get on Instagram and communicate with people, because I do want to show people what it's all about. So we're there for a couple of days. I think I land back in Australia Thursday morning. So we're there for a couple of days. It should be fun.
Yeah, well, just in time for the next podcast, you'll be able to give us the full run through. I think when our partners who are taking you guys over, when you said, you know, I'm not sure what to expect, I think the first thing they said to you was, be ready to eat.
Yeah. Well, it'll be, I've got no idea, but it'll be really, really interesting, and I'm super excited too. So it should definitely be fun. But obviously the other thing that we've been doing is, you know, setting up all our shows for 2025. Obviously, we released our calendar super early. I think season A for 2025 was released the minute after our season A this year finished. And then winter season, we published that pretty much 12 months before the winter season is going to be.
Yeah.
And then the same with our season C. So we posted that as soon as our season was done, we posted it. So we've given everyone plenty of time to know what we're doing so they can plan in around it. And we've already got, obviously, people messaging us and wanting to know a little bit more information. So, we're going to work on the posters. We'll have the posters out soon. Then we're going to work on the info guides, and that'll give everyone all the information. But yeah, we're really excited for next year. And it's, as you kind of said before with the workshops, trying to juggle everything in the venues. Obviously, within bodybuilding, there's a lot of federations, there's a lot of states, there's a lot of shows. So to juggle everything so there's no clashes is always very difficult. And that's why we put our calendar out as early as we possibly can. And we try to keep it consistent every single year with the dates that we use. We always put it on the same dates, on the same weekends for the same shows. The only thing that rotates a little bit, and it's only maybe every 2 years or so, is when our nationals is. It'll always be on the same date, roughly, but it may be in a different state. So super excited for next year, and
Yeah. I think logistically, man, it's probably, there's lots of challenges in coordinating as many shows as we do across Australia. But I think maybe one of the biggest ones is availability of weekends within seasons across multiple feds. When your model, and we're talking about our model, is that we all fly around and do every state. We're not kind of just functioning one state solo. It's really difficult. And that's why sometimes, you might see a date come out 12 months in advance, and then 3 months after it comes out, it does have to change because another federation will come out and, put a show on the same day or on the day before or on the day after. And then you have to sit down and work out, well, what's the trade-off of that? So, it's not even, as safe as saying you're the first one to put it out, that's going to be your date. It doesn't matter these days. People will come and put a date on, the same day as yours or the day after. And then you've got to, sit down and work out what the plan is forward. But yeah, I would say it's probably one of the most challenging things. I think one of the questions I saw come through on mine was like, how does that relationship work between you guys and other feds? Do you have a meeting? Do you guys sit down and talk? Like what actually happens? And I think even somebody said, they'd love to be a fly on the wall for when that meeting goes down. I suppose, we can answer it as best as we can. There is no meeting. There is no meeting like that. We do our best to communicate with presidents, promoters, state to state of all the feds. We have great relationships with some and not so great relationships with others, which obviously makes it more difficult. But we are also of the understanding that, ultimately there is only a certain amount of availability, and we have to do what's best for for our community, for all of the NBA athletes and all of the potential NBA athletes, that are thinking of coming across and competing. So it's a difficult thing to juggle, but there isn't a formal all-fed meeting, with how feds were set up in this country, and, it would just never be possible to do that.
Yeah, and as I kind of said before, as long as we stay consistent with the weekends that we run our shows, and we do that every single year, and we're always very consistent, then it goes without saying that they know not to put their shows on those weekends, because we do the right thing by them and they do the right thing by us. And in the end, it really just affects the athletes, not anyone else, because then they've got to pick and choose, or sometimes they've got to do back-to-back shows, one's on a Saturday, one's on a Sunday in the same state. So, ideally, we would love no clashes, but if everyone could plan so far in advance like we do, that would fix a lot of problems, to be honest. But sometimes, as we've kind of mentioned, we just can't wait. We need to book venues in. We need to put dates out there because people are yelling and screaming and asking for it. And there's nothing stopping us from putting dates out there, especially if we are consistent with where we do them. So that's what we do. And yeah, it's unfortunate that sometimes some people aren't as organized as us, or maybe they don't look at our dates and what we're doing, don't pay attention, or sometimes they just want to put a date close to or on ours just to maybe see if they can, rustle things up a little bit. But to be honest, for us, we just stay strong and do what we need to do, and we just keep pushing forward. If there is an opportunity where we could comfortably move a date that doesn't really affect us, them, or the athletes, then we're always open to doing that. But, as we get to that really, really close to the season starting, we're talking 6 months or even 9 months out, it's pretty hard to move a date and to find a venue that can accommodate that. So I know people have asked the question, we actually got it about how IFBB put their season B, their mid-year dates, 2 of their states are directly on the same day as ours, even though we put our dates out a year in advance. So again, unfortunate that either they didn't see that we had our dates out so far in advance, or they decided that they would be good competition to put it on our dates. Either way, for us, it is something that we're going to have to investigate to move, because again, it affects the athletes more so than it affects us. And because that mid-year is only really 2 federations doing shows, there are enough weekends to move things around across multiple states. So we're definitely looking at investigating that to do the right thing by the athletes, because as I said, it only really affects them. One thing that I was really, really happy to see is that ICN Vic has come to the party with doing a mid-year show in the actual mid-year, not in August or early June. They've actually put their show smack bang in the middle of the mid-year when we're running our show. So that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to make this a season. We wanted for other federations to come to the party. So obviously IFBB were the first ones to do it this year. They only ran the 1 show. But next year, it's good to see they have come to the party and followed us in the fact that we are doing 3 shows, 3 states. Now, ICN is only doing the 1. Hopefully in future, maybe other states get involved and we can really make a season of it. And hopefully IFBB and even ICN or the other ones get involved and actually make it a proper season with the proper nationals and giving away pro cards like we are. We've gone all in and said it's not a season unless it's actually multiple shows and it's actually a nationals and you give pro cards out. So we've definitely gone all in, and we're looking to spearhead that and to pioneer that season actually becoming something. And I think you guys know I've been a massive advocate of this. So obviously, I'm very, very passionate and motivated to make sure it works. But I truly believe it can work, and I believe that we have the community and the athletes to do it. So if anyone is considering doing a season next year, I would say put in the winter season B as your season to do, and then you can bridge into season C later in spring, which we already see people did that, especially even my athlete / coach, Amy. She did that very, very well, where she did the mid-year season for IFBB, and then she did a bunch of shows for IFBB and NBA in spring in season C, and it worked very well, and she actually improved and got even better. So it can definitely be done, and coaches should be able to navigate that really, really easily with bridging between 2 seasons. And there shouldn't be an issue with actually trying to improve. And also, if there's pro cards that come into play, especially for us, it'd be a no-brainer to go in there and trying to get that pro card, because they're not easy to get. So give yourself another opportunity to do so. I know we kind of spoke about this, Scotty, and you're the man that's organizing all the venues and and trying to facilitate that juggernaut of a project. How do you think it's all going, and what do you think about the mid-year season from a coaching perspective too?
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's good, but equally it's better now that there's essentially 3 feds that are all in. And as you said, hopefully we can turn that July, August period into, a whole nother season. And the way it's situated and the way that we've, really given consideration to it, so that you can use that as a bridge to either, if you've just fell short for the first portion of the year and the last shows are in May, then, you can come up for air for a week or 2 and then really push hard to try and finish, if you needed to get sharp or whatever it may be, to push for that mid-year. Or equally, you can use it as a qualifier, as a tune-up to then go into, doing a nationals, or to really bringing your very best at the back end of, season C or spring, whichever one you want to call it. So I think there's definitely pros to both. As far as venues go, there is a lot that goes into that. And we're pretty much close to wrapped with all of our stuff, the venues that we like and the venues that we wanted to work with. So there's a lot of exciting moving parts for next year. Obviously, we had that Bali show, which was which was phenomenal. I was going to say fantastic and phenomenal.
It was.
Yeah, so it really was. But equally, we've already locked that date. We're working with them. Production-wise, we know it was probably our show of the year, and I think we've already had a heap of athletes that are like, next year I'm definitely locking in, and not just athletes, coaches as well. So I think from that perspective, 2025 season B, or season winter, and season spring, season C, they're both going to be really, really exciting for us. Obviously, we're trending into uncharted waters as far as that mid-year goes, but as we tend to do, we back ourselves in. We've got 3 really good shows. We've got 3 amazing venues. It's going to be a really exciting time. It's obviously going to be a very busy time because we've got lots of travel going on for next year, and there's basically no reprieve now. But as a sport, I think it's just a really good indication that natural bodybuilding is trending extremely linear, and obviously we're pushing it, as are the other feds, to just make it better.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of things I want to touch on that you said. Firstly is, can everyone just start using, the autumn, winter, spring A, B, C seasons, because it's getting confusing, and I know we're sticking to it, because I did see another smaller federation call the spring season C. They're now calling it C, but they don't have a B. They've only got an A and a C now, which is fine. It's good that they're at least coming to the party with that naming convention, but it'd be good if everyone else gets on board. I think there's a couple of straddlers that need to, come across with calling it, autumn, winter, spring, A, B, and C. But I think we'll get there. Maybe 2025, we start converting people, and hopefully by 2026, everyone's following that process. The next thing I wanted to touch on was, and which was a really, really, a bit of a funny moment, but surprising moment, is in Bali, seeing the reaction from the people that run the venue, and also the reaction from the people that run the audio visual and the stage production, because they were 2 separate people. We had the venue hire, but then we also had the stage production audio visual team hire. Mm-hmm. To seeing their reaction to the show we ran was so funny, but also surprising, because they were like, we had no idea you were going to do what you guys did. Like, we had no idea that's what a bodybuilding show looks like. We had no idea it was going to be this crazy and epic. I know you probably spoke to them more directly, Scotty, so you might want to talk a bit more about that. But they were pumped for next year, and they were taking their own footage on their phones and stuff, and I know they were posting it on their social media and stuff, so that was really, really cool to see.
Yeah, it was. I think for them, and to quote them, he's like, we've never had a show like this here. Even a production, even Fish, who was our contractor, who did all our audio visual, the screens and all of that. Again, when we were putting it out there that we wanted to do it, and I guess it was originally, I was probably pushing it a bit more with Bali. I'm like, it's definitely a demographic, and I guess we had a vision from the start of how we wanted it to go, and we didn't want to do it half-assed. We could have found a cheaper venue, we could have done a cheaper production, but it was really important to me and to us that we really make a splash. And again, it was definitely a challenging piece, having to try and negotiate, being here, being in the UK, time zones, meetings, but I think being there now, and equally them having an understanding of how we want it to run, and the production team as well, and also learning some stuff around how we need to, perhaps we can do it even better next time. There's some little, bits and pieces that we can change, which we're already in the process of doing. It was really exciting for us and for them, because it's really going to put our show as, I believe, the #1 international show on the circuit as far as natural bodybuilding is concerned, to go and do, where, we had 5 different countries there for our very first international show. And I think next year, if we don't at least 2 to 2.5x our numbers, like, we want 100 athletes there for sure, but to still get, the numbers that we had and the quality that we had was absolutely awesome. And I think as an athlete, speaking to the athletes that did that show, experience-wise, and that's something that we place a lot of emphasis on with NBA, it was really good that everyone felt that love, they felt that care, and that they could see that we had literally spared no expense to ensure that, we went out with a bang, which was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. While we're still talking about feds, because we also got a question before I move on to some other questions, was about, what does IFBB consider as a natural based on their rules? And when I got that question, I had to actually look into it, because I wasn't too sure. I know I heard about this, it has to be 3 years off steroids, So I actually found their rules, and again, I'm not across what all these substances are, to be honest. That's not my thing, but there was a whole bunch of like, it must be, you can't have taken any, and there was a whole list of steroids you can't have taken for 3 years. And then it said a whole list of, I think, stimulants and diuretics, which was maybe like 3, 6, or 1 month, depending on what the substance was. But basically they consider a natural athlete someone that hasn't taken steroids for 3 years. And if you get caught, you get a 1-year ban. So if someone wanted to slip through the cracks and be like, oh, I'll just stay on steroids the whole freaking time, who really cares? The only ban they're going to get is 1 year. So that's what they consider as a natural based on their rules. The other thing that I saw there from a testing perspective is the NPC rules for natural regional shows, which is what is considered as the season B mid-year next year. It's considered as a NPC natural regional show. They need to urine test every overall winner, and they need to do a polygraph for 50% of the competitors. So that's in their rule book. So I'm really, really excited to see IFBB put that in place, because obviously that's something new for them in Australia, but that'll be something really, really cool to see, you know, all their overall winners get tested, and also having the polygraph person there testing at least half of the athletes would be awesome. But Scotty, I know you probably know about the technicalities of substances maybe a little bit more than me, but even though it's not your realm either. But have you seen those rules? And also the fact that, you know, a natural athlete for them is someone that hasn't been taking steroids for 3 years.
Yeah, I did have a look at them just to get across like what the terms were and what was within the bandwidth of legal and not legal. And you summed it up perfectly. There are some substances and some diuretics and lipolytics, I think, that you kind of use within, I think, 6 to 18 months on some of them. And then some of the other more heavier compounds, it's basically just 3 years. So, which it's one of those things, I think when you're entering in that, you'd hope that everyone wants to do that, but equally you're always going to open yourself up to someone who maybe isn't playing within the rules. But it is what it is. I guess we'll know in time. I think they would know that they want it to be a success early, so it's something they're going to have to be pretty heavy on. And I think it just comes down to hopefully the integrity of athletes. If you're entering in a federation that technically it is a natural federation, obviously their terms of what is natural is different to ours based on duration of not using pharmacology, but nonetheless, you're still saying that you have a clean bill of health / blood health for 3 years. Again, you're still potentially as a natural going to be going up against there, because if you have someone that's ginormous and then they decide to come off cycle for 3 years, then I think, and equally, it can also be murky, because if someone's been on cycle for a while and they come off, they still normally have to run tests or something like that to just live and function. So then I'm like, does that count if it's for, you know, everyday health functionality? Because if you have no testosterone, then you're going to run into troubles, you know, on that side of the fence, you know, holistically as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm really curious to see what it's like. I think it'll be good to, and I'm probably more interested in to just see like what is the look that's going to be rewarded in terms of, as a natural, our bikini, and I feel like IFBB bikini's become very popular, but you'll get, if you have natural, like say NBA, ICN level bikini athletes doing IFBB bikini, for me that's very different, because in IFBB Pro League, you've got like top level fitness competitors that would then cross over and do IFBB bikini. You need to have a certain amount of muscularity, you need to have a certain level of conditioning, versus, you know, NBA, ICN bikini level conditioning is not on that same level. But equally, you're going to reward that, and that's where it's like that first season, it's almost like you shoot for the stars and see where you land sort of thing. It'll be interesting to see what look they like, because that's almost going to set the term for moving forward. This is where you need to be at to try and meet that criteria.
It's going to be interesting, actually, because I'd assume they're using the same judges they've always used for all their shows.
Mm-hmm.
Have those judges ever had experience in judging natural athletes and what the natural look actually looks like? Are they going to bring someone over to teach them? Are they going to send someone over there to look at some natural shows over there so they understand what the look is? It's going to be very, very interesting. I really hope they get it right. And I really hope that, you know, that 3-year ban rule doesn't bring people that are technically within the rules, but it looks like they're taking the piss when they're like triple the size of a normal natural athlete. And people are just going to get turned off and be like, what are we even doing here? This is not, it's a natural show, yes, technically, but it's not what we consider natural normality in Australia. So I really hope that they get it right and they don't turn people off, because knowing the natural community, there's a lot of natural federations and there's a lot of other places to go. And if they don't like what's happening there, they'll just easily pick somewhere else to go.
I think it's probably, in reality, it's really only going to be bodybuilding, classic physique, and maybe figure. Because I think as a natural community, a lot of our bikini girls or our fitness girls that do IFBB bikini, our natties have shown that they can mix it. Same with men's physique. So I think it's probably more those bigger muscularity divisions like classic, the bodybuilders, and then figure to see and that's where you can kind of tell / get an idea of where they're at with it. So yeah, man, it'll be interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where it lands. But yeah.
How about you, MG? Any opinion on it, or do you have anyone that's interested in doing, not just talking about IFBB, like any of the mid-year stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think probably the one thing that is a bit of a standout for me is in terms of a deterrent, if you're looking at it as a competitor and you got a 1-year ban, it's man, it's barely my off season. So it's not really much of a deterrent. Most competitors are going to take at least a year off. I think what it should be is as a minimum, you should be banned for as long as you have to have been off pharmacology.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a 3-year minimum ban as a bare minimum. Even that, I don't even know if that's enough. But I just don't think that 1 year is much of a deterrent for anyone. That would probably be the first thing that I would look at. But I think having that show mid-year is going to be a big win for everybody. It's definitely going to be a big win for the sport if they get it right. Exactly as you guys have said, if they get it right, everybody wins.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move into some questions. I'm going to go with you straight, Scotty. Someone asked, I'm late to the party with cream of rice. Can Scotty please give away his recipe on how to cook it? You know, many people have asked this, and it kind of comes up periodically. And sometimes they message the potty page. I send the video that you did ages ago that you sent me.
Tutorial. Yeah.
Do you want to quickly run it through real quick? How you do it?
So whatever component of raw weight of rice flour, you have between 3 to 4 mils of water, depending on how you like to cook it and how you have it. So I typically go, so if I have 100 grams of rice flour, and this is the thing, it needs to be boiling water. So you boil the kettle, then you have to let it sit for about a minute. So it's not properly just boiled, because otherwise it burns and it goes really claggy. And then you mix, I have around about 3 mils, so 300 mils of water if I'm having 100 grams of rice flour, mixing it in with a fork or with a, what's it called? A whisk. A whisk if you want to make it really fluffy, get that nice consistency, and then I'll let you stick it. Once I get to that consistency, I'll add in my protein powder, mix that through as well. And then it makes it almost looks like a really nice creamy blend of mashed potato. And then you stick it in the microwave for 1 minute, add your frozen fruit, and then bang, you're done. It's really that easy.
Too easy.
Or you can buy the pre-made cream of rice, which is actually pretty expensive, I think. But for the sake of the Mackenzie's rice flour costs less than $2. I think you get 400 grams per one. So you pay 50 cents per serve versus I think the packet's at $100 for a 30 serve.
Yeah, wow. You know what's going to happen now, Scotty, like what happened last time when you first brought this up, is you're going to go to your local shops and there's going to be no rice flour left because everyone listens to the potty and bought it.
Yeah, I'll have to just start, because I'm taller than most, with things like that when they happen. I just I'm not going to say the supermarket I go to, because some people will go and take it. But if there's products that I want to use, I'll stick it up the back to the side and then put some other shit in front. So I know that if someone is being a hoarder, i.e. Warren Sirik, who works for me and goes and fucking buys everything, then at least I know I've got a little safety net at the back.
Woolworths in Eltham, guys. Woolworths in Eltham.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scotty.
Yeah, just go to any Safeway. Just don't go to Coles.
All right, Scotty, do you need to head off, mate? Because and that's why I wanted to ask you that question.
Yeah, one more minute, or one more question.
All right, cool. So what's the difference between reverse and recovery diet post-comp?
Do you want me to answer it?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. You're here.
Yeah, so I think it depends on different levels of body composition. So typically, if you've had someone that's got into elite level conditioning and more or less getting closer to those essential levels of body fat, then the need for them to restore body composition and energy availability is usually a lot more prevalent, in those initial phases, because they need some essential fat mass to restore immunological function, menstrual cycle, like sex hormone production, all of those bits and pieces. And then once you get some of that essential fat mass back on, then you can sort of take your time. But I think it's more of a, and you could almost probably blanket statement, anyone that's in the men's divisions, if they've gotten into the level of conditioning that you need to be in to be competitive, you probably need to employ a recovery diet. And anything from really, probably even still sports, like from sports onwards, if you've gotten truly inside out condition, and the conditioning for sports has gotten better and better, at least for NBA, we have a pretty high level, and you've got disturbance to menstrual cycle, there's heightened food signaling issues and things of that nature, increase in hyperphagia, all that sort of stuff. If you're seeing that, then a recovery diet is probably going to be something, it really is pertinent, versus if you're looking at some, like, and again, I'm not picking on bikini here, but the conditioning requirements are very different. You can be lean without, like, there are bikini competitors who can compete and not lose their menstrual cycle and still feel very much intact. And so if that's you, then it's probably, you don't have a drastic need to put on 3 or 4 kilos in the first sort of 10 days and then go slower from there. You may be able to just, bring food back up to just above maintenance and then just put a rate of gain in place that's maybe, 0.6 to 1% of body weight per week, depending on where you're at and depending on your symptomology.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to explain it. I remember back in the day when it all first came out, reverse used to be like very, very, very slow. And I think people have understood that the reverse isn't that slow anymore, but the recovery is even faster. So it's
for sure. And even some of the research showing now that those that go slower see a lot more of a decline in resting metabolic rate versus those that when you restore energy availability a lot quicker, even if it means you regain a bit faster, you see a big shift in resting metabolic rate, as well as restoration of some of the prep related adaptations that you encounter, things pertaining to food focus, to do with sex hormone production, immunological function, all of those bits and pieces.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Scotty.
Right, boys, I've got a jet. Enjoy.
All right, thanks, mate.
Scotty.
Just you and me, buddy.
We've known each other for a long time. I think we've had many instances where it's just been you and me, man.
Let's keep steamrolling through this. Let's keep going. When do NBA give Masters Pro cards, and what are the deciding factors for giving one? So I'm not a judge, so Stu is probably the best to answer this, but when do we give them? We give them at national or international shows, so like a championships, like the Asia Pacific we did it at, and also any of the national titles. And the rules are actually on our website, but it's someone that the judges, they've got to be in a Masters division, and the judges' discretion is based on whether they think that person is at a pro level in that category. So they may not be the best pro there ever was, or they may not beat all the existing pros, but they could stand in a pro lineup and really, really mix it with them. That's kind of the easiest way to explain it without going into the finer details of every single category and division. But that's how the judges kind of see it, is they are of the elite level standard of any Masters division. They're like the best master that's on stage or of that caliber, but they can also mix it with existing pros that aren't at that Masters age. So that's the best way to put it. And I think the best thing to do would be to go and have a look at some of the Masters Pro Card winners of the most recent season, because we had some epic physiques that you wouldn't even believe would be Masters, but they were, and they were awarded their Pro Cards. So hopefully that answers that question there. Is there anything you want to place on that?
No, just so for those that don't know, Masters just means 40 plus.
Yes, 40 plus. Yep. Okay, let's go to the next one. Is it normal post-comp going from having a high appetite to not having an appetite at all? So it sounds like having it fluctuate during post-comp, or as soon as your post-comp you did have, and now it's all the way gone. So let's answer it depending on whether it's two separate questions or not. But it's completely normal that during prep you have a very, very high appetite, and then as soon as you finish, after you push more food in, after you recover or reverse with bringing food up, obviously your appetite will go down. That's exactly what you want to see, right? So I think that's a no-brainer. If you're in the recovery or reverse period and your appetite is up and down, that's maybe a bit of a different topic to discuss. So it could be a couple of things. Whenever we talk about hunger and food focus, we want to make sure that the environment around you is congruent with you keeping your appetite and food focus down. So you don't have tempting foods around you. You're making sure that you're eating very, very similarly to what you were having in prep, probably just more so of it. You're not trying to include tasty foods within your diet just yet. Making sure that you are sleeping well, staying hydrated, all those kind of things. So if you're doing all those kind of things and you're doing them very, very consistently, that will reduce the fluctuation of appetite. But sometimes too, if it's a female, their hormones might be recovering too. So during that time, you may see some fluctuations in appetite also. Anything you want to add on that, why someone's appetite may fluctuate in the reversal recovery period?
No, you pretty much nailed it. I think, as coaches, the thing that we look for when we're looking into, and it's probably fitting that we just had Scott go through that reverse recovery, is like one of the reasons why we would employ recovery is if somebody is super lean, typically their hunger signaling is through the roof. And post-comp, it can be a really, really difficult time to navigate for any competitor who now has been so hyper-focused on this stage goal for, let's say, 12 months. All of a sudden you've competed, you've had the high of the high. Now this goal's taken away and you've got a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more intake to work with. And for a lot of competitors, that can lead to certain things. Oh my God, I just completely lost my train of thought.
I think one of the key things is when you have fluctuation, it's probably because you don't have consistency in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So if you're doing the same thing every day, you're eating the same thing every day, and you're sleeping the right amount, and you're drinking the right amount, and you're doing all the things you should be doing every single day, you shouldn't really have fluctuation unless there's something underlying going on that maybe just needs time to recover. Maybe it's just time.
Yeah, well, one of the things I was going to say is like the reason why we want to put some fat mass on you in a recovery phase, amongst many other things, is to address hunger signaling. So, as you said, it is common that there should be high hunger signaling leading into prep. It should still be there if this person's question is relating to like immediately post-show. No, it's not common that it's gone away now. Mm-hmm. For most competitors, sometimes it's even more elevated for the reasons I just said, is that now the goal's gone and all you have is that food focus. So if your question says that it's gone now that you've finished competing, that's probably abnormal. If you've gone through a recovery or a reverse and now it's gone, that is normal. And it's just going to depend on the rate at which you gained your fat mass will probably dictate how much hunger signaling you still have. And I'll give you a really good example, and Scotty will attest to this. For a lot of competitors, sometimes food focus stays high for longer than we would expect. And although you may already be at the higher end of your bandwidth for how much weight we'd like you to gain post-comp, sometimes all we can do is actually continue to push more food in because that's the only thing that's going to address that hunger signaling.
Mm-hmm. You're right, man. You're right. I know I've had that discussion with a lot of athletes, over my time, but even some more recently where it's like, I'm doing all the right things, Michael, my environment, my sleep, my this, my that, but I'm still really, really hungry. And I'll be like, well, maybe you just need more food. Maybe you need to up your food.
For sure. And I think sometimes, competitors will come to us as coaches. We'll go through this discussion and conversation. And as you said, we'll look at everything. And if everything seems to be in place, they'll be like, what? I just told you I'm eating too much and you want me to eat more? Mm-hmm. Yes, I do, because it's the only thing that's going to, correct that action.
Yeah. And sometimes, pushing in more food, more planned food will stop people eating unplanned food because they're not as hungry anymore. Yeah.
For sure. And ultimately, if they needed, maybe they're close, but they just needed to put on another 2 kilos to really get that recoverability where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. From our point of view as a coach, we have to look at what the trade-off is. And I think that 2 kilos, a little bit faster than we would have hoped, is a better outcome than you continuing to have bad food behaviors.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, 100%. Also, too, is if you just concentrate on scale weight, it doesn't really tell you all the information because we know that on the way up, out of a comp, on the way up, your scale weight doesn't reflect the same scale weight that you had on the way down, right? Sure. So if say I go, I'm back to being 60 kilo. Well, it wasn't the same 60 kilos what you were coming on the way down, because you got to think about on the way up, you're eating more food, therefore you're just going to weigh more in general. On the way down, your 60 kilos would have been a flat 60, right? So don't be like, oh my God, I'm already back to that weight. Yeah, but you're leaner back at that weight because of
your glycogen saturated, you're hydrated, you're
correct.
Like there's multiple things that could go into it. So you're absolutely right. And that's why we always say, scale weight is only one metric. And that's why sometimes post-comp, and we're going off topic here, and you might employ this tactic too, for certain athletes, sometimes I take out daily scale weights and I'll move to a less regular term of scale data, purely because sometimes it can get in the athlete's head and it's actually becoming detrimental to the reverse process.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, let's move on to the next one. What to do when you feel burnt out from tracking and the bodybuilding lifestyle when you're still a year off prep and it's only going to get more intense?
Yeah, man, that's definitely a discussion you need to have immediately with your coach. And almost a perfect segue for what I just said is like, one, your coach will probably sit down with you and go back to, what is your why? Why did we get into this in the first place? Is this, is the long-term goal still what we want to achieve? And if it still is, but you're just feeling burnt out, maybe there's some strategies or some things that you could implement to maybe in off-season, reduce some of the, I suppose, data logging to give you a little bit more reprieve from that. Because, maybe you're someone, and this is a lot of competitors, and MT, will know this too with a lot of his athletes, is when you're in prep, you're in prep. You're dialed in. There is nothing else other than prep. It's blinkers on. It's 100% adherence. It's everything to the gram. But sometimes in off season, you don't quite have that same level of desire for the data. So maybe with your coach, if you both agree that it's the right thing to do, maybe pulling some of that, I suppose, tracking back, but with the agreement and the contract to each other that as soon as the time comes where it's needed, it gets reinstated.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely have athletes that are like that, and also are the complete opposite too. So that comes down to the art of coaching. It's knowing your athlete, your client, and making sure that maybe the boundaries are a little bit more flexible, or what they track or what they do is a little bit more flexible, but they're still heading in the same direction. So, if it's an improvement season, we want to still see improvement, right? We don't want to see things, sway in either direction. We still want to see it progressing upwards. But if that means that they're not tracking as much, or they're not weighing in as much, or they're having more untracked meals than what they normally had, if that keeps them motivated, keeps them going, and keeps them improving and progressing, hey, it's working. It's working.
I agree. I think sometimes, particularly when you're in a long off season and prep can be a year away, sometimes for some competitors, all they want, and I've had times like this, and I'm sure you have too, bro, is I'm going to eat the same things I always eat. I'm just not going to scale it. I'm going to eyeball it. I'm going to have an off-track meal. I'm still going to leave calories for it, but I'm not going to put it in MyFitnessPal. But the overarching factor is that I'm still making decisions that are going to, benefit my long-term goal. I'm not going to regress in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just taking a little bit of the strain of being a bodybuilder away for a short period of time to try and, reignite my motivation levels.
100%. Another question we got, which is very similar, we probably answered half of it already, is what do you do if you aren't excited about prepping? Not sure if I should push through or should take another year off. If you're not excited and you're second guessing whether you should prep, you probably shouldn't prep. Because if anyone's been through prep, they know you got to be all in. You got to be all in. You got to be excited. And you got to want to do everything, because prep is really, really difficult. So yeah, my advice is, if you're not excited about it, you're not too sure if you're going to be able to get through it, then don't do it. And another year off is only going to help you. Another year of improvement season is only going to help you. What do you think, MG?
Oh, 1000% yes. And I think sometimes the reason people don't do it is, I already told everyone at my gym, my coach, he's going to think I let him down. My family and friends are already thinking about coming to the show. And you're actually, the only reason you stay in it is for everybody else. It happens all the time. It's just that nobody talks about it. I'm here to say it needs to be for you. Don't worry about your coach. Me and MT can speak on behalf of all coaches. We would rather have that discussion now than have to do weekly check-ins where you're only half-assing it. We would much rather you make the right decision now. It's better for the coach if you have that conversation up front. Your family and friends, they'll be fine. Guess what? The show will happen next year. There's a million shows and you've got a million opportunities to compete. You're going to come back bigger and better anyway. And if your heart's not in it, it's going to suck even more. It's not a half-assed sport, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. Have you ever had clients lie to you about their weight or weight gain post-comp? Could you tell?
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, I could. Yeah, but we've been doing it for a long time. We've got pretty good eyes, I would say. Typically, it's other factors that also come to light, like, sometimes a little bit of a mismatch in what we're seeing on social media versus what's coming up in the app. It's like, I saw you out with your friends eating off plan 3 times last week, but your app only says you did it once. And sometimes we're wrong, but we're also not idiots. We do see these sorts of things. So, yeah, it definitely does happen. I think for the most part, most people just don't want to let us down. And we appreciate that so much. We coach incredible athletes. And I think as a sport as a whole, we're, an industry where we hate letting other people down. So, yeah, it does happen. But I think the best thing, if you're asking, what should you do if you're doing this? And that's why you're asking that question. Best thing you can do is just be honest with your coach.
Yeah. I think too is you got to build that level of trust with your coach that if you're going to tell them the truth and be honest with them, they're not just going to shut you down, tell you off, make you feel miserable and guilty for it. So I think it's a coach's duty to, allow the client to feel that they can be open and honest and don't have to hide things from you.
Yeah,
it's really, really important. I think the only thing I would ever say about some clients I find is they tell me all this stuff at check-in when it happened on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and they don't check in until the following. I was like, why didn't you just tell me Tuesday, Wednesday? I could have helped you for the rest of the week, except you just waited the full week to tell me how you stuffed up on Tuesday. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I normally tell people is like, can you just tell me when it happens? You can bug me. It's okay. Like, it's fine. Like, that's what I'm here for. Don't wait till a check-in to tell me about the disaster that happened on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Do you ever find that, MG?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think it comes back to that not wanting to disappoint or not wanting to annoy you sometimes, but people on my team will say, like, sometimes we'll have a phone call and be like, all right, this happened, now we need to plan what's going to happen next, so that we still end up in the same position, because sometimes things can be salvaged, and if you don't speak up about it, then you end up backwards a week, and all of a sudden you're running out of time. And so transparency is always king.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I've ever, looked at someone's body weight and then seen their photos and been like, this doesn't match up. I don't think I've ever come across that myself. How about you? Have you ever looked at data and photos?
Probably just body scans. Probably like I've had some competitors who have like sent me a scan that they've gone and it says that they're, it might be a female competitor. It says that they're 4 or 5%. I'm like, you're probably closer to this in reality. But yeah, probably not visually.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. This one's going to be going for you. Can you please give me some insight on how I can bring another coach under me, best employment status, and who or where would I get some support on this for the legal stuff?
Good question. So I think the best thing to think about is, one, what role are they going to be doing? Is it in gym? Is it face-to-face, or is it online? From a safety perspective, from your end, if you're going to bring someone on, you've got a couple of options in terms of how you can employ them. The type of contract you give them is one. So what I mean by that is, is it casual? Is it permanent part-time, or is it full-time? Bearing in mind that if you go full-time or permanent part-time, you must guarantee those hours per week. All right. And if you have weeks where you don't have those hours, it can get a bit tricky where, you have hours in lieu, or if you want to vary that offer, you then have to provide a new contract. So you don't want to be doing that every time. So I think probably what the best starting position would be to employ a coach casually, where you can kind of make up hours each week. Now, I think there is a stipulation where if it is face-to-face, they must be done in minimum 3-hour blocks. And that just protects coaches from, having less than a certain amount of work per week, right? So you've got at least, if you're coming in to do sessions, you're getting at least 3 hours per week. The other thing that casual obviously allows to do is it allows variability in the contract, and things like annual leave, and that it gives you a better position as the employer. In terms of like who can help you with this stuff, having a gym and having multiple staff, this is not my area of expertise. There's actually companies out there that you can pay a monthly fee or a monthly subscription to who do all this for you. They do all of your contracting. They do all of your, if there's ever an issue with the employee, they handle the HR side. There's multiple companies. I use a company called EmploySure, where I pay a monthly fee and they do anything that I ever need. Or if I've got any questions, or if I need a new contract, or I need a vary contract, or I have a legal issue, they cover me for everything. So for us, it was more like, I have a set of skills. This is not one of them. I'm going to go externally and get someone to do it for me. If you're just bringing on your first staff member, I'm not sure whether you're going to get the benefit from it. But if you go to a path where you've got multiple staff members, it's a great tool to have. Equally, they may have a service where there's just a once-off fee to prepare something for you. So I would say don't leave it up to yourself, because be as protected as you possibly can. Because, even, in business, you might think that you've got an incredible relationship with someone. They've been friends with you for ages. You train together. But make sure that you've got the right things set up to protect both you and them if something was to ever happen. It's my best piece of advice.
Love that. It's really, really good advice. Like, I had it makes sense that there's a service out there, because I'd have no idea how to write a bloody contract if I had someone working for me. So there's got to be something out there where you can go, hey, can you just guys handle this? You're the best at it, and just I'll pay you for it. So.
And it's as simple as you'll ring them up, you'll tell them what you want to offer. They'll give you their best piece of advice. Have you considered this, this, and this? Once you've worked out what you're going to offer, they'll prepare the paperwork, the contract, the job offer. They'll prepare all this. The superannuation, the tax, they'll do all of it. And you just get an email which has all the attachments. You just print them, get them signed, and send them back. It's like...
Yeah, awesome. Love that. That's so good. All right, bro. Let's wrap it up there. I think I'm catching up with you on Friday. So
yeah, looking forward to it, man. We've got our sort of annual NBA massive day meeting where we're going to just try and go through everything and see how we can just make things even better for everyone. So I'm looking forward to that. And then you guys are off to China. So for us, for all the listeners, post as story and post as much as you can while we're over there, because we're just so keen to see what it's like, where they take you. So just, try and give us a really cool kind of day in the life while you're there. It'd be awesome.
I will, man. I will. I'll try to post and keep everyone updated. And so watch out for my stories. Hopefully I can get access to the internet and all that kind of fun stuff, and I don't get arrested.
We're looking forward to it, man. We're looking forward to it, brother.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thanks,
See you all
guys.
soon. Bye.
See ya.